Crimewatch, the courageous woman who fought back against a vicious sex attacker.
I actually thought I was going to die. I just kept thinking, oh God, this is it. And just kept thinking of my little girl without her mum. And that's when I tried to go for him and thought, no, this is not fair.
The entire attack was caught on camera. Tell us tonight, who is this man? Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. The woman you saw there has, exceptionally, decided to waive her anonymity, her story in just a moment. Before that, here's a look at some of the other cases that are coming up on tonight's show. We've got detectives here in the studio just ready to take your call. They want to know who murdered this little boy in an arson attack in Huddersfield. It happened 13 years ago. His mother is, of course, still desperate to know who did it.
Whoever's responsible, how can you sleep? I can't sleep. I haven't slept for 13 years, not properly.
Someone out there knows who did that. We also need your help to find the man who raided a Cheshire post office, savagely attacking the postmaster with an axe.
Don't be stupid! Don't be stupid!
And Raf's here. Who's on your wanted board tonight, Raf?
Well, take a look at this lot. Some of them are wanted for fraud, GBH and even murder. If you recognise any of them, get in touch.
And Matthew, what have you got for us?
Well, we have the remarkable inside story of how Scotland Yard's flying squad put a stop to one of the UK's biggest ever heists, all because of a map drawn on the side of a van.
There's no doubt in my mind that this would have dwarfed the Great Train robbery and the Brinksmack robbery put together.
They nearly got their hands on £80 million in cash and gold. Find out how the police spent months tracking the suspects before dramatically catching them red-handed.
Back in April, a young mother was sexually assaulted and brutally beaten on her doorstep in Hayes, in Middlesex. Unfortunately, victims of sex attacks often feel just too scared to come forward, which is why this woman tonight, Vicky, is extraordinarily brave. Not only is she speaking out about her ordeal, but she's also chosen to waive her legal right to anonymity. She is doing everything she possibly can to try to catch this man. Can you help her?
Hello, police emergency?
Yeah, can I have the police?
OK, what's happening there?
There's some bloke outside. How's supposed to beat me to an absolute pulp and just tried to rape me?
I'm going to send police straight out to you. What's your name, please?
Vicky.
In the early hours of April the 24th, a young mum returned here to her flat on the busy Uxbridge Road, Hayes. But what should have been the end to an enjoyable night to celebrate St George's Day was the beginning of a nightmare.
We were just going out for the evening. My sister comes, so it was quite a special night. My sister doesn't generally get out a lot either because she's got a little girl, so it was a big difference for all of us to be out together. I hadn't really had a lot to drink, but I just had enough and I just thought the safest thing to do was just go home now. So I phoned a cab and they come and got me.
Good night.
I see two blokes standing there, but they were just talking to each other. There wasn't loud, it wasn't causing any hassle, so I just carried on. And as I got to the doorway, I just turned around to face out onto the road and have a cigarette.
Okay.
I thought I'll stand in the doorway because the security desk is right behind where I was standing. The security is sat at the desk. They can see everything outwards. It's all lit up and I'm standing underneath a CCTV camera. The whole building's covered with them. They're everywhere, so I just felt safe, didn't feel threatened at all. One of the guys had to have walked away because when I next looked up, there was only one there. And then that's when the one that was left standing there come over to me.
I want sex.
Sure you do.
Give me sex. Where can I get some?
Excuse me. Can you leave me alone, please?
Where can I get some?
At first I didn't really hear what he was saying. He had quite a strong accent. And then I could pick out he was saying about sex, asking where he could get it and things like that. I was freaked out by it, but I thought he'd just think, oh, OK, and then he's tried his luck, not got anywhere, so he'd just let me go inside. It wasn't until he just kept getting in my face and obviously trying to just touch me and try and kiss me that I realised that it was me that he's on about and not anybody else.
Pretty girl.
Please don't touch me.
Yeah, come on, give me a kiss.
And I looked around and in the foyer bit where the security guard was supposed to be sitting, he wasn't there. He wasn't in the hallway, he wasn't anywhere to be seen. I just thought if he's not there, then he's going to be inside the office. I kept thinking, oh, he'd be back in a minute, he's gone to the toilet or he's gone for a cigarette or something. But every time I looked, he wasn't there, he never came back at all.
Go away. Thank you very much.
And then I tried to phone my friend and it was just ringing. I thought, oh my God, they're still not answering.
Welcome to the 112 messaging service. The person you are calling is unable to take your call.
What Vicky didn't realise was that her phone was still connected and her friend's voicemail was recording her attacker. This means not only do we have CCTV images, but we have his voice as well.
I don't want anything from you. I just want to go inside. Can you leave me alone, please? No, can you go away and leave me alone?
The next thing I know, he took me by surprise and he grabbed me, so I'd gone to the floor. My head hit the floor really, really hard. It was tiles out on the floor. He was holding me down, trying to grab me, lift my skirt up, rip my tights. Actually thought I was going to die. I just kept thinking, oh God, this is it. And just kept thinking of my little girl without her mum. And then that's when it just hit me. I just thought, I'm giving up and I've got a little girl and I shouldn't be giving up. And that's when I tried to go for him and thought, no, this is not fair. And then as I went for him, that's what startled him as well. And that's when he jumped off and ran away. It was horrific. You know, she was just covered in blood, just horrible. All I can remember is these two white lines where she'd been crying and just, oh, awful. It wasn't until I was taken away by the police that I looked in the mirror and I realised that my eye was actually shut. My nose had popped during the fighting and a massive lump on the back of my head. I was covered in blood, head to toe. My little girl, she just wouldn't even look at me. I was heartbroken because she's my little girl and I'm her mum and she should want to come and sit with me and she didn't want to. And she didn't know who I was.
Not always knew she had fight in her, but I'm so proud of the way she did. I think she just wasn't letting him get what he wanted out of her. She kicked and, you know, for all her might, she just weren't going to let that happen to her. And I'm so proud of her for that.
I'm convinced that it's only thanks to Vicky's courage and determination that we're not dealing with a much more serious offence. This predator chose his victim at random and had no qualms about brutally beating her. He must be found before he strikes again.
He needs to be stopped because maybe someone next time is not as strong as I am and could come off a lot worse than what I did.
Really shocking. Well, DCI Peter Holdcroft, who's leading the investigation, is here. Thanks for joining us. Peter, as you say, Vicky is a remarkably courageous young woman for stepping forward like this. It was a vicious sexual assault.
Yes, I really admire Vicky in the way that she's spoken out. She comes across very strong in the video, but I can assure you this attack has left both her and her family really traumatised. This was a terrifying attack.
I mean, the injuries are horrific, aren't they? One of the things about it that is particularly interesting is that he wasn't put off by the fact that this was a well-lit doorway, there could have been a security guard walking in at any moment, and lots of CCTV cameras.
Yes, Vicky did everything right on the night. She travelled home in a licensed minicab, and she had every right to think that she was safe to smoke a cigarette right outside the front door of her premises.
So I suppose if there's any good news at all, it is that there's lots of CCTV footage and the voice as well.
That's right. Not only is it caught on camera the whole instant, but Vicky tried calling one of her friends, and on her friend's voicemail we can hear the attacker's voice.
OK, let's take just a little clip of that call then.
Where's your phone? I don't want anything from you. I just want to go inside. Can you leave me alone, please? I don't hear you. No, can you go away and leave me alone?
Completely terrifying. Vicky was able to give you a really good e-fit of this guy.
Yes, she has. She describes him as being a black male in his 20s. He was wearing quite a distinctive leather hoodie.
Right.
And he spoke with a heavy African accent.
OK, so the hoodie quite unusual, actually.
Yes.
There's a crucial witness on CCTV. You've got to trace this guy.
Yes, we have, yeah. He was seen speaking to the suspect a few minutes before the attack took place. Now, I must emphasise, we don't think this man is a suspect, but clearly he might hold information that's vital for our investigation.
Yeah, really important information. Thanks very much, Peter. Vicky, she's done the hard bit. Now we just need you to pick up the phone. If you've got any information, please do it now. 0500 600 600, or you could call the independent charity Crime Stoppers. You can do that anonymously. Their number is 0800 555 111. If you've been a victim of crime, then maybe you should call the victim support line. Their number is 0845 30 30 900. Now it's over to Rav with his first batch of wanted faces.
And my number one tonight is Isra Ali. Here he is. He's wanted in connection with the murder of Waqar Ahmed Shah, who was killed in April in Glasgow. Ali uses several aliases, including Mohammed Isra, and has links throughout the UK and Pakistan. He's considered dangerous, though, so if you see him, steer clear and just call 999 immediately. Next is Balakrishnan Kamalanchuran, and he's wanted for assaulting a man in Southwark, South East London. He's just 18 years old, originally from Sri Lanka, and has lived in Nottingham, Leicestershire and the Thames Valley area. 3 over here is James Crookshank Boys, also known as Jimmy. He's charged with 4 rapes and 13 counts of indecently assaulting young girls whilst working at a children's home in Sussex in the 80s and 90s. Now, this photo was taken 10 years ago, so he's probably aged a bit since. He's originally from Dumfries in Scotland and has links to Kent, and would struggle to see in a crowd because he's only 5'4" with size 4 feet. Now, there's nothing saintly about my number 4, Richard Pope. He's wanted for his involvement in boiler room scams, which have seen over 2,000 victims lose over 80 million quid. For some, that's their entire life savings gone. Pope has connections to St Albans and Harpenden and was last known to be hiding out in Spain. So, do you know where Pope or any of the others are hiding tonight? If you do, pick up the phone now, 0500 600 600, or you can text us 63399, type crime space and then your message. It's really important to leave that space, remember, or your message won't get through. And you also have another look at these mugshots online, bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch. And remember, all of our wanted faces will stay on the website until they're caught.
For some, the 2nd of May 1997 was a momentous day in British politics as Tony Blair led Labour to victory, so ending 18 years of Conservative government. Well, that very same day, a young boy was celebrating his aunt's birthday at a party that was in Huddersfield. For that family, it was a day that would end in disaster.
Prime Minister Tony Blair entered Downing Street in triumph after the biggest election victory in Labour's history.
It's an overwhelming outburst of enthusiasm that we're witnessing here in Downing Street. Really quite overwhelming.
Wherever Joe was, he lit up. It wouldn't matter where I took him. He'd be the entertainer for the day. You know, everybody just loved watching him because he was a character. I used to see him in the morning and he'd have his big smile on his face. It just used to make my day, really.
For 13 years, Joe's mum, Tracy, has longed for the answer to one simple question. Who's responsible for the murder of her son? Next month would have been Joe's 21st birthday. It's time to bring whoever did this to justice.
Joe and his brother Nicky were staying with Tracy's sister Debbie when the fire started.
Whilst I were asleep, I could hear somebody shouting. And all I could see was orange, roaring flames. The heat was horrendous. You could see bits of your skin, like you'd melted.
Tracy had been working in Bristol that week. The first she knew of the fire was when she turned into the street on her way to collect Joe and Nikki from Debbie's house.
Can you remember that moment, that instant, what it was like?
It was shock because there was people everywhere. There was police, the house was taped off, the windows were all broken, smashed out. The door wasn't no door, and it was just black. That's when I started panicking about my sister, the kids who had been hurt, had they been hurt, and nobody knew what was going on. It didn't feel real.
So tell me, when you got to the hospital, how you found out about Joe.
My nurse took me into the little room and she was going through all the kids' names, everybody's name, and it wasn't until last she got to Joe, and that's when she told me that Joe had died.
And that must be a moment that you just return to and return to in your mind.
Every birthday, Christmas, anniversary, it's always there.
The blaze was so intense, it's incredible anyone made it out alive. But it was no accident. Someone had poured petrol through the letterbox and set it alight while Debbie and the children lay asleep upstairs. Police were baffled. There was seemingly no motive. So why were they targeted?
It's a child's life, an innocent child. Whoever's responsible, how can you sleep? I can't sleep. I haven't slept for 13 years, not properly.
And to think, you know, somebody could actually do something like that and know what they could actually cause. Not only one death, it could have been all of us could have all died.
Nobody should have to lose a child. It's just something that you don't expect to do in your life.
Break your heart, wouldn't it? Detective Superintendent David Pervin is with me now. He is leading the investigation. The petrol, the middle of the night. I mean, the ultimate harm was trying to be done here. It was done. Do you know why this family were targeted?
The key aspect in any homicide investigation is to establish motive. In this case, we looked at every aspect of the McCafferty's life and those connected with them, but we weren't able to establish any reason at all why they should be attacked.
So who is it then? It's confusing this. Who is it you're appealing to tonight?
Well, first and foremost, I want to appeal to the person who did this. You have had Joe's blood on your hands now for 13 years. I don't know how you can live with that guilt, but it's time to stop that guilt and give yourself up now. Secondly, I strongly believe that whoever it was will have told someone what they've done as well. In that respect, that person must come forward. The McCafferty family need answers. Do the right thing and call in.
What about somebody who might know who did it? You said to me earlier when we were talking about this terrible crime that the person could have had burn marks on their face, the person who put the petrol through the letterbox.
I think it's highly likely that they would have probably burnt their hands or their face, particularly the extremities, the nose, the ears perhaps, or the fingers. And what we did at the time, we checked all the hospitals. Nobody presented at hospital with burns, so perhaps whoever did this treated themselves or they got some help. I would again appeal, if anyone knew of anyone with unexplained burns at that time, or they helped someone with burns at that time, please ring in.
Another key to solving this could be this. It's not actually a petrol can, is it? Tell us about this, David.
It's not. It's an oil canister. It's a Unipart 2050 oil canister. Right. What we do know is that this was taken to the house with petrol in it and poured through the letterbox. What I would ask on this is, at that time, did you know anyone with a canister like this? Perhaps did you have one stolen? Did you lend one to anyone? Or even, were you working in a petrol filling station at that time and you saw someone filling a canister like this with petrol?
OK, that was 13 years ago. Very important factors, David. We hope that you'll get some success tonight. I would urge you, please, to think back to the night of the 2nd of May, 1997 it was. It was the day when Labour came to power. Can you remember anything at all, however small, that might help, as we've said? Next month, it would have been Joe's 21st birthday. So please, finally, help bring his killer to justice. Do it for his mother. The number again is 0500 600 600. Or you can call the independent charity Crime Stoppers. You can do that anonymously. I'll give you their number, 0800 555 111. For now, it's over to Rav with some criminals caught on camera.
And we've got thieves of all descriptions in tonight's first roundup of CCTV. Focus your attention on this bloke in Warrington Town Centre in March. He's a thief wanted for nicking designer glasses frames worth thousands. Here he is in Boots the Opticians. He casually has a look around and then brazenly pinches a pair, then another, and another. It's not the first time he's believed to have struck, but he should have got his eyes tested while he was there, as then he might have spotted these cameras. Put him in the frame and give us his name. Check out these partners in crime outside flats in Leamington Spa in July last year. One takes the front door while the other has a nose around downstairs. They swap places and then this bloke tries all the doorbells until someone accidentally buzzes them in. Once inside, they force their way into several flats and get to work stealing jewellery worth 100 grand. They were smartly dressed, but not smart enough to notice they were being filmed. Put a stop to their stealing streak. Who are they? This 66-year-old woman is on her way home in Islington, North London in June. But she's not alone. This hooded lad has clocked her and he's not planning to help carry her shopping. Here he is urinating against this tree. When he sees her approaching, he starts walking. He might be ahead, but he's watching her every move. As she enters her door, he doubles back and pounces, snatching the victim's gold necklace before running away. Robbing a pensioner on her own doorstep. How low can you get? Take a good look. Name, please. Know any of them? You know what to do. Call us right now, 0500 600 600, or you can text us on 63399. Type crime space and then your message. And if you need a second look, go online, bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch.
Now it's time for some fantastic results on cases we've featured previously. Matthew?
Yeah, lots of good news, starting with this man, Graham Fisher, who earlier this month was found guilty of the murders of 40-year-old Claire Letchford and 75-year-old Beryl O'Connor. The women were partially strangled and then burnt alive in their Hastings flats just days apart in January 1998. They'd both been Fisher's neighbours. Fisher also admitted to attempting to rape and murder a Czech student in a train toilet in the same year. Well, all three cases were featured on Crimewatch more than a decade ago, but at the time, we had no idea the same man was responsible. Well, 37-year-old Fisher was already a patient at Broadmoor High Security Hospital, where following the reopening of the case, he confessed to his psychiatrist. He's also been convicted of 2 further rapes and has now been sentenced to 21 years.
In June, we showed you this. It's CCTV of 2 men attempting to rob a bank in Ealing, West London. They were armed with a Mac-10 machine gun, but thankfully didn't use it and were forced to flee empty-handed. Well, thanks to your calls, the men were identified as Usman Mukhtar and Yusuf Yusuf. They both pleaded guilty to attempted robbery and possession of a firearm and will be sentenced at the beginning of next month. Great stuff.
Your calls really do count, you know. Now, these detectives just behind me are looking for a violent robber who attacked a 57-year-old postmaster in Cheshire. It happened back in June. When the victim fought back, the intruder set about him with an axe. We need your help to catch the man who did this.
This is a peaceful village of Crimewatch in Cheshire. The village store also serves as the post office. For the last 19 years, has been home to the family that runs it. Friday the 18th of June began much like any other day for postmaster Steve Howard.
Oh, hiya, Steve.
Hi, Luce.
Do you mind if I grab a
paper, is that all right?
Of course you can, Lucy. Come on, you're an early bird, aren't
I
you?
know, I'm not normally up at this time.
Ah, there you go. Just leave the money on the counter.
Brilliant, thanks so much.
Hi.
Hi, love.
Right on, I'm off.
Don't be messing up the display.
Kiss.
Have you got your lunch money?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Don't be stupid. Don't you go! Get you! Get up!
I've been attacked with an axe. You've been attacked. Hello? Hello? Hello, can you
Stephen had been struck several times to the head with an axe. He received horrific injuries and suffered extensive blood loss. But thanks to a small piece of plastic like this, he survived.
I could feel the blows to my head, but didn't realise how serious they were at the time. And he just kept sort of hitting until I don't know whether he thought he'd finished me off. There were 18 stitches in my head and 5 staples. One very deep wound which had to be stitched internally as well as externally.
The axe used would have been sold with a protective cover as standard. Fortunately for Stephen, that cover was in place when he was attacked. Without it, it could quite easily be in a murder inquiry. Despite Steve's heroics, the offender made off with bundles of cash. He sped away in the car he had arrived in, a black BMW M3. We believe the post office was targeted due to the quiet location and the fact it doesn't get too busy. What the offender didn't take into account was that in a close community like Cumberbatch, a stranger driving a sports car at 100 miles an hour doesn't go unnoticed. The robber sped away from the post office on Senna Lane, turning left onto Warrington Road, then right onto Budworth Lane. His escape was nothing short of reckless. He narrowly missed a head-on collision with a HGV driver and proceeded to run at least 2 red lights on the A50. He's picked up again on CCTV heading back towards the West Midlands, the direction he came from that morning. We want to know where he went after that. Did somebody help him get rid of that BMW? He may have committed offence by himself, but we do not think he was working alone. 8 days before the incident, a maroon-coloured car was seen outside the post office. In the car were a black male and 2 white males. One of the men was reported to be taking photographs of the area. Just 2 days prior, a black Renault was parked in exactly the same place. The occupants bore the same description as those in the earlier car. The man who did this and those behind him have shown that they're ruthless and dangerous criminals. Help us to stop them before they do this again. Next time, they could take somebody's life.
I feel lucky that I survived, and it could, you know, having been told it could have been a lot worse. I was very lucky that it wasn't, and I do feel angry that somebody can come sort of do so much damage, you know, to not only to the business but to my life as well.
Vicious DI Peter Lawless of Cheshire Police is with me now. It was an axe like this that Steve was hit with, a really vicious attack.
Yeah, he suffered horrific injuries and extensive blood loss. Had it not been for the cover on the axe, we could have been looking at something much more serious.
Tell us a little bit more about the car, would you?
The vehicle was a black BMW M3, saloon car bearing this registration number. We know that the offender had this number plate cloned. We need to know where that was done.
Right.
The vehicle is still outstanding and would have been covered in blood. So too was the money and the offender himself.
Now, we know, we saw it on the CCTV there, and you told us this guy was driving really recklessly. People would have noticed that, but also he was heading in the direction of the West Midlands. You think that's important?
Yeah, we know that vehicle was travelling up from that direction on the morning of the offence, and it certainly travelled back in that direction afterwards.
And tell us, there's a reward involved here.
Yes, we've been working closely with the Post Office, and they've offered £10,000 as a reward to anyone with information leading to the arrest and conviction of these offenders.
OK, 10 grand, it's a lot of money. He's violent and he's dangerous. We need to find this man fast. If you know something, I would urge you to call us now, 0500 600 600. If you want to see that reconstruction again, then this is the address. It's bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch. Right, still to come. The man targeted in a highly unusual and vicious sexual assault appeals for your help.
As a guy, you always think you fight them off, but I didn't. I just did what he asked to survive.
His attackers struck in a normally tranquil commuter town in Sussex. Can you name them?
And where is this man now? He was caught on camera attempting to rape a young woman in Bristol in June. We need your help to find him tonight before he tries it again.
But before that, we have a fascinating insight into how Scotland Yard's elite flying squad foiled perhaps one of the UK's biggest ever heists. The sums involved are reckoned to have run into the tens of millions of pounds, far more than the Great Train robbery and the Brinksmat bullion raid combined. Matthew has the inside story of how the flying squad's surveillance operation culminated in a very dramatic raid by armed officers.
Payday, lads. Huh?
It was going to be one of the biggest robberies in British history.
All right, lads. 2 minutes, load it up. You know what...
There's no doubt in my mind that this would have dwarfed the Great Train robbery and the Brinksmat robbery put together.
This is the remarkable story of how a major criminal organisation plotted an audacious heist to steal tens of millions of pounds in gold bullion and cash. But what they hadn't banked on was detectives from the flying squad being one step ahead of them, all thanks to a map drawn on the side of a van.
In 2002, there was a serious epidemic of armed criminality in and around Heathrow Airport.
That was thefts from warehouses, bonded warehouses, lorry hijackings that were being committed by about 200 to 300 criminals that lived in that community around Heathrow Airport.
To catch the ringleaders, Scotland Yard's elite flying squad needed information.
The first big breakthrough was when a baggage handler was arrested and came forward as a supergrass.
Well, the guys you need to be looking for, they all live in the Stanwell area, so they know the airport like the back of their hand.
It's all very well. What we need is names.
The key name that came through from the information he provided was a man by the name of John Beach.
John Beach is the guy you need to be looking for.
Beach worked as a van driver in Stanwell near Heathrow.
We decided to put him under close surveillance to see what both he and his associates were doing.
It was imperative to identify his network and then to piece together what it is they're planning to commit.
Beach's key friends were Martin Nolan, who I considered as his lieutenant, and Chris Smith, who would be the right-hand man for Martin Nolan. We realised that they were planning something, but we just could not identify the premises, and we needed to establish exactly where it was going to be.
But then the undercover surveillance team filmed something extraordinary. Martin Nolan sketched a map on the side of a van.
We looked at the footage over and over again.
There's the roundabout.
Yeah, it looks just the same as the map.
And then suddenly realised that it was actually the routes around the Swissport depot.
Swissport it is.
It was a tremendous feeling. We were now in a position where we were one step ahead of the opposition.
But now the flying squad faced a dilemma. If they tried to catch the gang red-handed, somebody could get hurt.
You have to imagine the worst scenario, and that is that they are armed and willing to use those firearms.
But if they arrested the gang before the heist, there wouldn't be enough evidence to guarantee stiff prison sentences.
We really wanted to put these suspects away for a long time.
It's be worth it, isn't it? You betcha, mate.
Our choice was to obtain the best evidence and catch them red-handed.
Finally, in early 2004, the flying squad started planning an ambush.
Delivery comes through here, through the main gates.
Their tactics needed to be perfect.
Gold gets dropped just inside the doorway here.
They had to guarantee the safety of the depot workers, but without alerting them to the impending heist. Detectives now knew where the robbery would take place, but not when. Then a crucial piece of information came in to change all that. It was a startling discovery.
But this is the most interesting bit.
The depot was due to receive huge cash and gold deliveries the following Monday. Could this be when the gang was planning to strike?
I've got this little job coming up. You interested?
Of course I am.
Yeah? Good man, I'll be in touch.
If the robbers were successful, it would be the biggest robbery this country had ever seen. On the morning of the 17th of May, we had over 100 officers deployed in and around Heathrow Airport. I was positioned just outside the depot, communicating with all the officers and obviously watching what was happening.
In position, you reading?
By 9 a.m, the cash had been delivered to the warehouse and the security van carrying more than 3 tons of gold was on the way. But one thing remained a mystery. Just how was the gang going to carry out the crime? As police waited, the arrival of a white van looked perfectly innocent. But unknown to them, the driver used forged paperwork to pass through security.
Here there, boys.
And in the back...
You ready for this, yeah?
...were Chris Smith and his hired muscle.
The robbers were in the car park in their van. What they didn't know was just meters away, in another van, was my team of armed officers. The irony was that neither of them knew either were there.
The two groups of men waited. The police for the robbers to strike, the robbers for the gold to be unloaded.
All right, boys, this is it. Odds on, come on.
What happened next stunned the police.
First we knew on the day that we were game on is when the villains reversed their van through the shutters into the warehouse.
Immediately, the robbers got out from the back of the van.
That's it! Come on, check it up! Get to that! Over there! Get the Go! Yeah, the best straight away. Yeah! That's it! Go! Come on!
Some of them went straight for the gold and started to load it onto the van.
Now, come on!
Others went into the vault area where they threatened the custodian
Where the cash bag? You heard him! Open the door! Do it now! You're wasting my time!
to get his keys to get to the cash. I realised that this was it.
Attack! Attack! Attack!
Go!
We immediately deployed the firearms officers.
And that is when speed, stealth and surprise wins the day.
Hurry up! Come on!
At that stage, most of the staff were in a state of shock.
Let's go!
The overriding objective is to dominate, control and arrest them.
Police, get down!
The wheels of their vehicles are always shot out to make sure they're immobilised.
Minutes after the armed officers went into the warehouse, I walked in.
Job well done.
It was a moment of elation. We knew that these men were going to go away for a long time once convicted.
But one man remained at large. John Beach, the gang's leader, had tried to keep his hands clean by not taking part in the heist itself. But the net around him was tightening.
Hello?
What? Shortly after the robbery, John Beach was seen to get a phone call.
What, ambush?
He appeared angry and agitated.
Don't phone me on this phone, all right? Yeah?
We believe he got a call from another gang member telling him his whole plan had been ruined.
Convinced he'd played a significant part in the robbery, Beach was later arrested and found guilty at trial. He and his associates were jailed for a total of 83 years. With the gang locked up, the impact on crime in the area was immediate.
Following the arrest of the gang, crime around Heathrow Airport was reduced by about 80%.
It really was a high-profile success story. Tremendously satisfying.
And all because of a map sketched on the side of a van. Extraordinary. A pretty ambitious trap that the police set.
Yeah, a real high-risk strategy, waiting for the gang to make their move. I know commanders agonised over that decision, but they'd swamped the area. They'd staked out the whole route the gold would take from the airport to the depot, because, of course, they didn't know where exactly the hit would be made. But the plan worked. I mean, this was the front page of the Mirror the next day.
I remember that.
Look at that, caught red-handed. This one of the gang in front of a mountain of gold, but for police there had been no room for error, no margin for error here.
Yeah, I mean, you say a mountain of gold, really big bucks here we're talking about.
Yeah, 40 million in gold bullion, up to 40 million in cash, so absolutely massive. But these were career criminals. Beach, the mastermind here, he'd pulled off another heist at Heathrow 2 years earlier. In that raid, he'd got airside on the tarmac. Currency had been taken off a plane. They got away with $6.5 million. That money has never been traced, but Heathrow was his patch, you see. Beach had worked there as a baggage handler, and he used his bent contacts in that previous raid, in this raid, to actually get round that tight security.
How easy is it, I'm wondering, Matthew, to get rid of £40 million worth of gold once you've nabbed it?
Well, through official channels, difficult, because each gold bar is registered, it has a special number on it. But if a gang has the right equipment, a furnace to melt down the gold, to recast it, then it becomes much easier to get rid of it on the black market, much easier than getting rid of banknotes, for example, or diamonds. But, you know, this sort of delivery of gold in a truck on a road, I mean, it's quite rare. Most of the trading between banks, it's done on paper. The gold never moves out of the vaults. That's why this gang targeted this particular shipment, because as a smash and grab, it doesn't get much bigger than this, but as a police bust, it doesn't get much better.
I'm always learning when you talk to me. Thank you, Matthew. Now, here's Rav with his second set of wanted faces.
Right, this time we start with that man wanted for attempting to rape a woman in Bristol in June. Now, the horrible ordeal was caught on CCTV. When he didn't get what he wanted, he brutally beat the victim around the head before walking away. The whole attack is simply too graphic to show. Now, detectives are confident that the man responsible is tonight's number 5. He's Abdiaziz Shide. He was arrested but skipped bail and hasn't been seen since. Somalian Shide is considered dangerous, though, so if you see him, keep well away and call police immediately. 6 is James Hughes, though that could be a fake name. Police want to speak to him after several cannabis factories were discovered in Lydd and Ramsgate in Kent. Properties had been rented using fake documents. Next is Mamand Razulpur, or Gurdo, as he's known to his mates. He's wanted for raping a student in the Fallowfield area of Manchester 2 years ago. The victim was taken to a park by 2 men and subjected to a prolonged and terrifying assault. Razulpur is 24 and of Iraqi origin. And last, but by no means least, is Neil Groves. Now, he's wanted for assaulting and robbing a man in Mansfield Woodhouse in Nottinghamshire in May. The victim was left with a fractured skull. Groves has links to the Midlands, the north of England and Southern Ireland. Now, he is dangerous, so if you see him, keep well away and call police immediately. So, do you see anyone that you recognise? If so, call us 0500 600 600, or you can text us 63399, type crime, that all-important space, and then your message. It really is important to leave that space or your message will not get through.
One Friday afternoon in July, 2 men armed with a knife took part in a shocking sexual assault on a man in the quiet market town of Wadhurst in Sussex. It happened completely out of the blue and in broad daylight. The victim is understandably deeply shaken, but he's determined to see his attackers caught.
It was always in my head, thinking of what happened. I thought, just keep it quiet. Because I wasn't going to tell her. I'm a guy, these things don't happen.
You haven't been sleeping again, have you?
I'm fine.
You're gonna have to go to the police.
I know.
This is Wadhurst, a small commuter town in Sussex, a place where people feel safe. But one afternoon in July, it was the scene of a highly unusual and vicious sexual assault that shocked the community.
Wadhurst, well, it's a really nice place, friendly. If you see 10 people, you're going to be saying hello, good morning, 10 times. It was Friday afternoon. I thought I'd walk up the hill, it's a nice enough day. Past the Shell garage. Phone my wife on the way.
Hi, what do you want for tea? I'll see you in a minute. Bye.
I went into the local newsagents, got the bits for tea, then I continued through the mile pit, which is a private road. I heard a car beat behind me.
Here, mate. You don't know the way to Tunbridge Wells, do you?
Yeah, what you need to do.
While I was giving directions, the passenger got out.
Hey, mate. You got a lighter?
Yeah.
He's looked at the driver and said, "He looks like one of them black girls."
Sorry?
I thought, I'm just going to die here on the bright, sunlit day. And he's going to stab me with this knife, I'm just going to die. As a guy, you always think you fight them off. But I didn't, I just did what he asked to survive.
Who would subject a middle-aged man to such a shocking ordeal? Why choose Wadhurst? Had they come here with this in mind? Crucially, we need to know where they went next.
Oi! Oi!
I've got to get away from here. I didn't look back just in case they were coming at me. And I just kept on going.
The men who did this might have thought that their victim would keep quiet, but he's an exceptionally brave individual and has come forward in the hope that they are caught. Now we need your help to find them before they strike again.
I wanted to hide it, but every night from the attack got gradually worse. It's almost the last thought as I go to sleep, and it's definitely the first thought as my alarm goes off. That's the first thing in my head. They might get worse. They might want to do something more violent, or just more hurtful. It could be an old woman, it could be another guy, it could be a child. These two guys, just scum.
Well, DI Rob Morland, who you saw in the film, is with me now. A very unusual attack, made all the more unusual because it happened in broad daylight.
Yeah, this is a highly unusual, vicious sexual assault that occurred in the middle of the day, and we are appealing for witnesses to come forward. The audacity of these men to attack a middle-aged man in the middle of the day by daylight is just truly astonishing.
You've got really good and detailed descriptions. Take us through the descriptions.
Yeah, we do. The driver is aged 50 to 55. He's a white male, quite large build. He's got gelled, dark sweatback hair. He's got dark bags under his eyes, and he's wearing a dark T-shirt with a prominent American flag on the sleeve.
OK, and what about the attacker himself?
Yeah, the attacker's also a white male. He's aged between 18 and 25 years of age. He's got shaved hair at the sides, light brown blonde hair. He's got very sad-looking eyes, downward turned, and he's got a prominent bridge to his nose. He's got a thin mouth with gappy teeth, and he was wearing a yellow hooded top with grey tracksuit bottoms and white trainers.
OK, so great descriptions of them, highly detailed. Also, some interesting facts on this.
Yeah, we believe the vehicle that we're looking for is a dark blue metallic two-door Volkswagen Polo, possibly the Mark II. What's interesting about this vehicle is that it's got a beige interior, not the usual black. We need to link this vehicle to these offenders, and are very keen to speak to anyone who's seen this vehicle on the day, or indeed since.
Now, given that this attack happened to a man, and there can be particular problems related to people coming forward with this kind of attack, there could be other victims out there.
Yeah, that's right, and nobody should suffer in silence. The victim has been extremely brave in coming forward to us, and if there are any victims out there, I need them to be inspired by the victim's bravery and come forward and speak to us to stop these extremely dangerous individuals.
There could be men who are other victims, but also these two, you think, could strike again, and it could be anyone at all.
Well, we can't say that this is sexually motivated, and we can't say that it's racially motivated either. We don't know that the next victim could be a man, a woman, or even a child, and we need anyone to come forward so we can stop them.
We certainly do, Rob. Thanks for joining us. We need to catch these men before they do it again. If you've got any information, I would urge you to call us right now. Let me give you the number. There it is, 0500 600 600. And if you've been a victim of crime, there is the victim support line for help. They're on 0845 30 30 900. Now it's over to Rav with more criminals that have been caught on camera.
Yep, and this time we begin with a couple of brazen bank robbers.
Two men smashing their way into a bank in Cheshire, Hampshire, back in January. They're armed with a sledgehammer and wearing forensic suits to cover their tracks, but I'm not sure one size fits all. And that isn't the only thing not to fit this rotund robber. His mask slipped off as well. Whoops! They got away with thousands and must be stopped before they have another crack. There's a £5 grand reward if you can help convict who's responsible. Names, please. Funky Mojo's nightclub in South Woodford, Essex, last November. The champagne is flowing in the VIP area, but the only very important thing about this bloke is that we find him tonight. When a fellow clubber knocks into him, things turn very nasty indeed. He pulls out a knife and stabs the victim in the stomach before running away. At first, the victim didn't realise he'd been hurt, but seconds later, he collapsed on the dance floor. Luckily, he survived. This thug lashed out without thinking and must be stopped. Take a good look. Police think this is a tattoo on his neck. Who is he?
If you know anyone, you know what to do. 0500 600 600, or you can text us on 63399. Type crime, space, and then your message.
Yeah, please do get in touch. Now, Rav and Matthew have got some more good news on cases that you've already helped us with.
Remember this bloke? He was caught on CCTV using fake bank drafts to dupe eBay sellers out of expensive watches. Lots of you called in and named him as this man, 27-year-old Christopher Walker. He's now been given a 6-month suspended sentence and ordered to carry out a year's worth of community service.
And finally, last month we asked for your help following one of the most shocking violent burglaries we've ever come across.
Where's the safe? This is serious!
Not a safe, I swear!
You have a house like this without a safe! Well, listen, I've got an iron and I'll plug it in! No! Where is the safe? No, there is no safe!
There's nothing. There's nothing, we've told you. What you see is what we've got. Shut up! We need the money.
Didn't realise how bad the burn was. And it was only when several of the nurses said to me that when they saw how bad it was, they said, I don't know how another human could do this to another human. It's just barbaric.
Well, dozens of you called in, including one man who rang with crucial information. Unfortunately, he hung up before detectives could speak to him further. Tonight, we desperately need that man to call back. You can speak to the police in confidence, and measures can be put in place to address any concerns you may have. But please, do the right thing tonight and call the investigating team on 0300 333 4444.
And just before we go, Rav has got details on what's been happening on the phones tonight. Rav?
We have had some good stuff already. I mean, we'll start off with a Hayes attempted rape. That poor 21-year-old woman who bravely spoke to us about what happened. Over 20 calls already on that. We've had 4 different names suggested. We've had a few possible sightings of the offender. We've had one very strong lead, in fact, that the police are going to be following up. We've had texts, emails and phone calls on that, so very, very good response. Then Joe McCafferty, we're calling it an arson. Here he is, the little lad. Of course, so much more destruction than fire damage there. A loss of this little lad's life. 7 calls with possible names and a very good email as well. And already we got something coming in on the Wadhurst sexual assault. We've had an email with some potentially strong information coming in there.
OK, that's everything for now. Details, of course, on all of tonight's cases are on our website, as ever, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. You can watch all the reconstructions again and take another look at the wanted faces and Rav's CCTV. The phones, I think, have been pretty busy tonight. The lines will stay open until midnight, so do keep calling, and they open again tomorrow morning at 7:30 in the morning. We're going to be back again in just a few weeks with more cases, including on the anniversary of the murder of PC Keith Blakelock, a major reconstruction of the North London riot during which he was killed. But before then, don't forget, we'll be back tonight at 10:45 with an update on tonight's cases. If you haven't called yet, please do it now. It really is all down to you. See you at 10:45. Bye-bye.